Yeah, we are good.
Not struggling, but we are. We finished the methodology part, and we are in the middle of the findings. So we're writing the findings.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And you happy?
Yeah.
Beth happy?
It's quite tough. Yeah, Beth, I think she's happy.
Well, that's all that matters. Okay, shoot.
Okay,
I'll
right.
shut up, pretend I know nothing.
Okay, so thank you very much, first of all. Do you give us the consent to record this conversation?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, as you
I've
might...
actually, Pietro, before we start, I've got a question for you.
Definitely.
Okay? Nothing to do with this project, but while I remember to ask, I'll ask. Do you know any small and smart research companies in Italy, market research?
I can have a look.
Would you have a look for me?
Definitely.
Yeah, it's quite urgent. So.
Do you mind sending me an email with what you're looking for, or just let me know? I mean, so I can narrow down the research.
You can do it if you want.
Okay. Okay.
I'll send you a brief.
Okay.
Okay.
Definitely.
Let's start.
So, as you probably be aware of, this project is about the RIS markets. So the first question is, considering your experience, what do you think about the RIS market in UK right now? If you can give us your point of view.
Okay. I'll compare it to the rest of Europe. Okay?
Yep, even better.
Give some context. For various historic reasons, the risk market here is, or the use of risk systems is much more mature, and the risk systems have much more functionality than in the rest of Europe. And that's for one key reason. In most European countries, management has control over IT systems that get bought. Yeah?
Yes.
And so historically, they bought their patient management system, and risk has had to bolt itself onto the side. So it's always played second, and if my English is too much, you've got to tell me. It's always played second fiddle to the main patient management system and billing system. In the UK, for lots of historic reasons, the radiologists have had a lot more control over that purchase decision. And so risk systems in the UK tend to be much more sophisticated and much more functionality rich, but at the price that they've been historically rather detached from the patient management system.
Okay. Do you think that this kind of market mature situation might be connected to the fact that the UK is, I think we can say that is acknowledged to be very cutting the edge digital country compared to other countries? I mean that the digital is ongoing more than in other places in Europe.
Is that true?
I mean, according to some researchers, probably yes. UK, the perception of digital here is better than in other countries in Europe.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't know that. That's fine.
So we have seen some players during this research, but what we have understood is that there is no a clear distinction in from the customer point of view between risk players and practice management players. So there's a little bit of overlapping between pure RIS systems and practice management systems. So what is your point of view about this overlapping and the fact that two different basically softwares are doing the same things?
Well, as I said, I think the risk systems, generally speaking, I mean, obviously it varies by segment and individual hospital, are quite mature, whereas patient management systems are not that sophisticated, and a lot of them are still moving from paper. You know, if you look at my hospital notes, they're still all on paper, then some of them are digitized. And I think there's going to be a lot of resistance amongst the radiology departments, both radiology management and radiologists themselves, to having to accept degradation in their risk systems in order to accommodate patient management systems. Now, in a sense, that's the tail wagging the dog, but I think that's going to continue. And if you're going to get acceptance of patient management systems in radiology departments, they're going to have to be a lot better integrated with the patient management system. And I think it would be, now, if I was a supplier of patient management systems, I'd be very careful not to try and pretend, in the UK, pretend to be a bad risk system. The issue for me, for those manufacturers, is open integration.
So actually you mean because UK is quite special, because in Europe they all use like management system, but in UK they prefer to use the risk system. So actually
what I'm saying is historically the radiology departments in this country had a lot of power in deciding what systems they would have to go with their modalities. Yeah?
Yeah.
Which I don't think was as I think management had more control in the rest of Europe. So what they will not accept is going backwards. Okay.
Yes.
So, you know, they like their risk systems, and the last thing they want is them being wrecked by having to use some patient management system that doesn't fulfill their needs.
Yes.
So the key issue is you've got to integrate the two.
Okay, I see.
It's my view, without copying functionality.
But can they become the competitor? Because we see some private clinic, they don't have risk system before, so they can still operate themselves.
Yeah, because they're small.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
and also the private market in the UK is very different from the rest of the world. You know, the private hospitals here, with the exception of HCA, leave them aside for a moment, are really little boutique establishments, a bit like boutique shops in Milan, who cherry pick clients and cherry pick what they want to do that's profitable. Okay. So they've never been of a scale to worry too much. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. I have one more question about these two positions.
So risk has been driven by the NHS, really, and powerful radiologists in the NHS.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that why, like most of the company now, they didn't target the private clinics? They only target the NHS hospital.
Well, that's a question of scale and money.
Okay.
Yeah. And the private hospitals, remember, it's generally speaking a management light.
Yes.
And they haven't had the pressure on them to move information around and manage that information. But that's changing, I think. Especially now they're doing more and more NHS work. They've got to get a lot smarter at integrating, passing information between themselves and the NHS.
Okay, yeah.
And also they're under pressure. So before, it didn't matter too much if they underutilised their assets. Now it does. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, one question is, I would like to go a little bit deeper between RAS and a patient or practice management system. So what do you think, as considering that these two softwares apparently from some customers' point of view are doing similar things?
They are.
Yeah. What do you think that, how the risks can be competitive with a patient management or a practice management system? I mean, what is making an RAS unique compared to a more generalist software?
That is specifically designed around the workflow in a radiology department, and it's specifically designed around a PAC system. It was never designed to be a patient management system. And the other thing I tell you is, until the last 10 years, most patient management systems were a disaster.
Sorry, where?
A disaster.
Oh, okay.
They didn't really work that well. I think that situation's improved. But if I'm running a radiology department, and I've got quite a sophisticated system that manages my workflow, integrates well with PACS, integrates well with my modalities. Anything I'm offered that's a patient management system is going to degrade that functionality, so it's got to integrate with it.
Okay.
Okay. I think internet is not really good.
Marcus, we lost.
Yeah.
Okay. No. We lost the video for 1 second. It's fine. Okay.
You've lost the picture, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're pretty. I'm not.
In terms of thinking about the future, we are dealing with a company, as you know, that is trying to put on the market a new RAS system, and with the support of some consultant, we have done an amazing segmentation. What do you think, considering your experience, that which kind of criteria for selecting the most profitable segment you would use for according to this specific market? We know that we are talking about a high-tech market, that is the RAS market. We know about the chasm situation.
All right. I'll answer the question, and St. will hate my answer. Okay?
Yeah.
If you go, I think St. John, if he wants to get anywhere, probably needs to integrate with an existing risk system. I think the issue for St. John is what is theoretically the most profitable segment, but which segment can he actually start selling in? So I would reverse that and say the critical issue for St. John is which segment is the cost of sale and the life cycle on sale the shortest. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Definitely.
So a simple model of profitability is useless to him, actually, unless you want to look at it in terms of net present value of a sale and how long it takes.
Okay.
Because it's not even straight cost. Cost is a proxy for how can I win some sales.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
And for him, the critical issue is finding a segment which he can get into for quickly.
Okay. So,
whether that's through partnership or whatever.
okay. And in this way, I mean, going down this road, if you can imagine from the other side, I mean, being a private clinic or being a radiology center, how can I start tackling you with my new product? I mean, do I have to be there when you're having some troubles? Do I have to be there when you're looking for information and on the web, so just popping up saying, okay, I have the solution for you, understanding your pain point as a customer?
I think the only chance he's got, and this is confidential between us, right,
Obviously.
is organisations going through, for whatever reason, sudden change. Okay?
Yes, yes.
Organisations that, for whatever reason, have got to change. Now, an example is, as you know, Edward VII is about to have a lot of dramatic change in terms of new physicians joining who have systems that just don't bloody work.
Okay. I mean, it's not easy to understand when a company is in a in a transition period or is having this.
I didn't say it was easy.
Yeah. No. I was just trying to imagine how. Yeah. I mean, I think that in that case, a sort of word of mouth might be a kind of solution to acquire information about transition period, but despite
the only other alternative for him is to partner with somebody, an existing player who wants to beef up their functionality.
wants to
their
beat.
functionality.
Okay. So an existing player in the RIS market or an existing partners in the RIS market?
I would look at existing players in the market, to be honest, and try and help them improve their product.
Okay.
I'm not sure he can sell a risk system on its own,
Okay.
Why do you think so?
because there are lots of mature risk systems that are really good. And one of the things we've learned from this project, I think, you tell me if I'm wrong, is that having clever booking mechanisms is not a very high priority.
Yes, I mean, according to the data that we gather, it is a nice side.
Yeah, it's nice to have. It's not, key.
Yeah.
What I think is key is integration with the patient management system.
Yes.
Well, when you say there are a lot of mature systems here, who do you think are the main players now in the risk market?
Don't know them well enough. Who are the people at Queen Anne Square? Who's the risk supplier there? I've forgotten their name.
Queen Square, they're using several systems.
What's the main risk there?
Epic, probably.
Epic, right? Then let Epic be your partner, perhaps.
They're using Epic. They're using Soliton.
And Soliton, that's all right. What I'm saying is, I don't know the particular risk systems that well. But if I was St. John trying to make some money here, I would focus on ease of integration with the market leaders in patient management. You'll hate that message, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, as you said before, practice management system or patient management system are trying to get into the RAS market, or they tried to in the past, and but the RAS system is more specific. So, considering what you're saying right now, might be more interesting for a company to start talking with an RAS player, or maybe patient or practice management system
And
player.
bolt on the risk system to the, and offer them a risk entity on the side of their patient management system. Why not?
So you can see as useful both way. So
I think you've got to have a big brother partner.
okay,
Okay.
okay,
I think so.
okay. I have one more question about the strategy. So, as you said, the UK market now is more mature than compared to Europe. According to one interview I've done with an Italian company, it's a private clinic, I've noticed more or less the same trends, but they were more focused on, in terms of needs, on privacy and regulation stuff. They were more concerned about that. So, do you?
Well, that's going to get more important here as well.
Yeah. My question is, if the UK market is quite mature, might be a strategy to go and start in a different market in Europe. Obviously, there are pros and cons.
You've got to find a partner to do it,
Okay.
in my view.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the lack of knowledge to a market might be a problem, but as
New product into a new market sounds risky to me. Remember your Ansoff matrix.
yeah. So you're saying new product in a new market is not easy to manage. Is not is a complicated situation.
You won't do it unless you've got a partner.
Okay. But I mean, would you prefer, or would you suggest, though? Which consideration do you have between going and partnering with a company in the UK market, or going with and partnering with another company, but starting in a different market? I mean, starting, for instance, in a not so mature market, like might be the Italian market, with no. So we don't, in Italy. Apparently, there are not big local players like in UK.
I'd find a partner who's got a reasonably decent patient management system, who wants to add on a decent risk system or integrate with a decent risk system.
Okay. And what about partnering with some? Do you think it might be a strategy partnering with some modalities producer or manufacturers? Might be interesting.
Could be, but you need a big partner, whatever it is,
Okay.
in my view. Remember, this project started out with St. John's view that the market opportunity was for relatively small establishments, i.e. not the NHS, who currently don't have particularly sophisticated systems.
Okay.
Okay, and I have one question about the NHS view. So obviously, NHS might seem, and probably it is a profitable market, but is not so easy to take a share in this market. So my first question is about, again, RAS and practice management system. So do you think that there is any kind of relation or correlation or connection between using an RAS market, an RAS system, and being a radiology center or a clinic, and an adoption of patient and practice management system more to some clinics or hospital? I mean, when you're scaling up, when you're going bigger, you tend to have a patient or practice management system, and when you are maybe small, and your core, the core of your activity is the radiologist activity, you probably are using an RAS system.
Right. If I'm a scanning centre, I don't need a patient management system.
Okay.
My risk system could do that for me.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, and once again, Sindra might like this. Do you know what came out to me as the obvious opportunity? Is that, and forget about what product Sindra's got, just as a market opportunity. There's a lot of flux going on in the London market, a lot of change going on, which is always opportunity if you've got the right product. I would produce a tool for all those practices like London Orthopaedic Clinic or LUA that want to leave HCA, where I can say I will, and most of those businesses are very diagnostics driven, yeah? Mm. I would say I'll offer a service porting your HCA data onto some other platform that my risk system smoothly integrates with.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I catch it partially. Can you rephrase it for me just 1 second? Because maybe I got the point, but I just want to be sure that I got it correctly.
Okay. There's a lot of flux. He won't like this, so careful before you put it in the report.
Yeah.
There's a lot of flux in the London market. And one of the consequences is that there are practices, now whether they're virtual practices or they're real practices like London Orthopaedic Clinic, defecting from HCA.
Okay.
Okay? So, and we both know, all three of us know, that data, for people who have their data on I forgot what it's called, the HCA platform, is a nightmare.
Yeah.
And causes chaos. So I'd be offering a service saying we will help you port your data onto some relatively simple practice management system, which includes a risk system, because a lot of what you do is about diagnosis.
Okay. Okay. I see. It's like a T-lock.
Let me give you an example. You know, you've heard about London Urology Associates moving to Edward VII.
Yeah.
Which is Mark Emberton, Caroline Moore, etc., who are stuck with all their patient data on DGL, the HCA rubbish. Okay? Yeah. Most of their life is about things like active surveillance, sending people off for MRIs to see what's happened to stage their disease, to see if it's getting worse, getting better. A lot of it's to do with MRI fusion for doing biopsies. Yeah?
Yeah.
So you're fusing ultrasound data with MRI data. And a lot of the treatments are driven off those imaging systems, like HIFU and whatever. All right?
Yes.
Certainly, the use of imaging modalities in procedures is a big growth area.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
I'll give you a little example. There's a big growth, and you may know this as well in Italy, Marco, in interventional radiology. Yeah? You know what that is, Shutting?
No.
Okay. Interventional radiologists, supposing you've got a clot in your brain
Yeah.
or an aneurysm in your brain,
Okay.
instead of the surgeon opening up your brain, cutting your skull open and poking around inside, an interventional radiologist goes through your bloodstream with a wire, finds the block or whatever it is, and puts a stent in. Okay, like stents in hearts.
Okay.
You've heard of those. So all that stuff is completely imaging driven. Have you got that?
Yes.
Do you see what I'm trying to say, Pietro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of medicine, which is combining imaging and surgery,
Yeah.
is growing.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it connected to some kind of laparoscopy interventions?
Well, it could be connected to laparoscopic interventions. Could be, yeah. What I'm saying in that, and all that data is going to start to be collected. So what I'm saying is, imaging is changing from being sort of static diagnostic information to dynamic information which is used in real time during surgical procedures.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So the importance of managing that information, both in terms of the RIS and the PACS, is increasing daily.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And MRI-guided procedures are getting more common. Ultrasound-guided procedures are getting more common. Another example, robotic procedures are getting more common. But those robotic procedures are based on imaging.
Okay.
Yeah, and recording all that data.
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm certain for audit purposes, having that data stored on a PACS and managed by a RIS will get more and more important.
Okay.
But it's a bit different from I've got an X-ray, store it on the PACS and I'll report it and have a look at it. It's still imaging, and so the role of imaging and imaging information for specialist surgeons is only going in one direction, and that is there's more and more of it.
Yeah.
Okay. What I mean, we were talking last time with another we can define him as RAS market expert, and his vision for the future is about on one side artificial intelligence, on the other side data. So how can RAS, in his vision, RAS systems should be in the future fully integrable with a kind of artificial intelligence, and being able to process and analyze lots of data.
Okay, but is that the job of the RIS or the PACS is the first question, and what does it integrate with?
Yeah,
let me make a few comments on that.
Yeah.
Firstly, AI systems. AI systems work well in constrained domains where they are supervised. Do you understand what that means?
Yeah.
Let me try and explain because it's important. AI systems, for example, taking an image and diagnosing it, okay? That is constrained. I mean, all the system has to know about is images. It doesn't know what cancer is or what an abnormality is. It just puts that label on it. You with me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just it's been trained with thousands and thousands of images to say, in this image, I see something, or from all the database I've got, that looks like cancer. It doesn't know what cancer is.
Okay.
It just says there's an abnormality that doesn't appear on normal systems, and the label is cancer. To be simple-minded, yeah? And yes, it relies on... AI isn't new. The machine learning algorithms used in AI have been around a very long time. All right, they've got a bit more sophisticated. What's changed is those machine learning algorithms have met big databases. Okay?
Yes.
So they improve by looking at thousands upon thousands upon thousands of examples, yeah, and training and being trained on those examples. Now, what certainly will happen in the future, because AI systems are not static, is that you will keep feeding information into that, keep giving it more examples as time goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The other thing I'm saying about supervised is I see the role of AI in imaging as it will help the radiologist discard all the scans he needn't be worried about because they're normal. Yeah?
Yeah.
And will alert the radiologist to those scans that he's really got to focus on.
Okay.
Now, one of the criticisms of most AI systems in this domain is that they generate false positives.
Okay.
You know what one of those is, yeah?
Yeah.
So there's a waste of time.
Well, no, I don't mind false positives.
Yeah.
If the radiologist says, oh, don't worry, that's a false positive, it's not anything to worry about, that's fine. It's much better than false negatives.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah? But you've got to be a little bit careful there. Because if it says it's positive, the radiologist has got to spend a lot of time proving it isn't. So, but what I'm saying is it's always going to be supervised by the radiologist. This idea there'll be a big brother system that will say you've got cancer and this is the treatment plan and we all go, yes, sir, is complete bullshit.
Okay, but also you say in your idea.
So you've got to think about the process model that's going to get used with it. Hang on, the dog's escaping. Give me a minute.
Yeah. So in your idea is.
He's going outside. Dolly, come here, Dolly.
How can this affect risk-making?
In the way you should integrate your system with a sort of artificial intelligence system somehow.
Okay, so the AI system's got to be integrated with the PACS, and it's got to be constantly accessing new data to try and improve.
Okay.
But in terms of workflow, it's never going to replace the radiologist. Not in my lifetime. That might not be too long. Certainly not in the next 30 years, I don't think.
Okay. So in your vision, it's like it's not even a consulting. It's just a database that is giving you an idea about. I mean, what might be an evolution of this specific situation that you're looking at on an X-ray or something, and is indicating or pointing where you should look more carefully at, probably.
And not even as far as that. I think it can read all the images. Remember, most images show nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah? Mm. In the diagnostic domain. So that's fine. You know, it can. The radiologist has got confidence that it doesn't have false negatives. Then it can go through most of the reports, which are routine, and say, don't worry about any of that. Here are the ones you should worry about. A filter, if you like.
Yep.
But how can this, the changing from radiology to AI, like machine learning, how can this affect the RICS market?
Well, I think it affects the PACS market more than the RIS market, actually.
Okay.
Because in terms, yeah, I think it does.
But you're saying probably due to the interconnection between the systems, the RIS market should be aware at least of that.
Of course, because it will affect the workflow.
Yeah. Okay, so it basically is a change in the workflow. That
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Now, there are people who disagree with me, but I think they're, fantasizing.
Yep. Okay.
But what is true is the AI systems have got to be integrated with the PACS.
Okay.
Not the RIS, but with the PACS.
Yep.
Okay. So actually, I have several questions, like really directly related to the thesis. So, for example, about the crossing the chasm. Do you think chasm? Sorry. Do you think there is a chasm in the RIS market now?
If you're talking about the market,
yeah.
Remember, RIS is not a market, it's a product.
Okay.
Markets are about needs to be satisfied.
Okay.
Is there a new market called smaller private hospitals that have got to adopt systems and have got to improve their IT infrastructure?
Yes.
Because more and more images are being produced, because they're doing more complex things, because of all this stuff we've discussed, that increasingly any operating procedure is likely to involve imaging and having to record and have an audit trail. Okay?
Okay.
That is new, I think.
Yes.
And I think smaller private hospitals, and that's the sort of generic term, having to address that and buy systems is true and real.
Okay.
So it is a new market. Is this a Cross the Chasm project? Absolutely it is.
Yes.
Yes. Why is it? Once again, just between us, St. John made the mistake that everybody makes when they come to the chasm. He said, he went round and talked to his friends and said, would you like one of these? And they all said, yes, please, that's just what we want. Okay?
Yes.
So he went away and built it. And then he said, well, there you are, I built it. Will you buy it now? And they all went, we might, and we might not. Okay?
Yes.
And that's what the chasm is.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yes.
So he is deeply in the chasm, I think.
Yeah, but well, what do you think caused the chasms? Why do the customer, like when he built it, he did we may not?
Who knows? Because customers are like that.
Okay.
Because that on the day you tried to sell it, they may have said, "Oh yes, that's lovely. We really want one of those." But at that point, they didn't perceive it was important enough.
Yeah. But is that like in UK, the private clinics, they used to have like rigs, or rigs maybe is quite new for them?
It's whatever they've got, it won't be very sophisticated.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
But things are about to get a lot more sophisticated.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So they're going to have to collect a lot more data, and they're going to have to manage that data.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So you mean the needs are increasing, but why the private clinics cannot use the rig systems already in the market, like the big one, the brandy one?
Because it's just not important enough yet.
Okay, I see. Okay, so yeah.
Sorry.
So that's what the crossing the chasm is all about. It's about markets not understanding the need that's being addressed.
Yes.
Yeah. So one question about the chasm. So as you said, so we know from the theory that on paper it should work in this way. So basically you have the mainstream market, which is what you're trying to reach, and the early market, which is the initial situation.
Well, I would slightly change it.
Yeah, exactly. So my
You're
question
going
was...
to cross the chasm. You have to find the people who perceive they have an immediate need for something different.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's true.
And address them.
Okay.
You know, as far as I remember, it's many years since I read the literature, but the literature says find a segment and try and dominate it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's turn that round and say what characterises that segment. It really does have a need you've got to sort out for it. It cannot be avoided.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see.
But
Yeah.
as we can, in a sort of way, from our analysis, recognize and acknowledge that there is an early market, do you think that after the chasm there will be a mainstream market, or are we talking just about...
Okay, well, let's talk what we mean about a mainstream market. And let's define this market at these smaller hospitals.
Yeah.
What is certainly going to happen is as more and more procedures generate vast amounts of data,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of that image-related data, it's going to become more and more important for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Not just in terms of diagnostics, which will increase, but also in terms of procedures performed on the patient.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And that is only going in one direction. It'll get more and more significant all the time.
Yes.
So at a certain point, you've got to have a sophisticated system to manage it.
Yes. Yes.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
20 years ago, when maybe a bit more than 20 years ago, they started doing angiograms and angioplasty. You know what they are?
Yes.
You know, angiograms, you look at the heart with an dynamic X-ray system, and you put a wire through and squirt the contrast medium, and you see how the blood supply is to the heart.
Okay.
That's an angiogram.
Okay.
And angioplasty is you see a problem and you put a stent in to widen an artery.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
20 years ago, these were all on discs. Every time the surgeon performed a procedure, he had it on a disc. CD.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you ended up with hundreds and hundreds of CDs.
Yes.
All right? You had a manual pack system called thousands of CDs
Okay.
and no way of looking at them unless you found the CD. Well, at a certain point, having a manual solution just fell to pieces. You had to automate it. You had to put this stuff on a PAC system, although it's called a cardiology system in that case, but it's the same thing. And you had to have ways of accessing it and looking at it.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But you have to wait until the need reaches the point where people say, okay, I'll spend money to solve this problem.
Yes.
And that's what the chasm is, really.
But when you wait until that time, is there already other competitors also think about that?
That's a problem as well.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
But when you say that in the future, probably, so the diagnostic is increasing and probably...
And the therapy is increasing.
Yes.
Using imaging.
And probably new specializations are going to rise up in the next years.
Yeah.
So normally you can be a very innovative hospital like King Edward, or you can be a small new healthcare facility running this new kind of technology for scanning or diagnosing or whatever. My point is, see, the question is if you are assuming an increasing in the numbers of new healthcare facilities, or more something like a merging trend in the future, ending up with big players and no small players.
No idea.
That's clear.
No idea.
Yeah, it's an honest answer, I mean.
No idea. What is clear is that as new technologies come along, more and more people, more and more potential patients, they're used on more and more patients for more and more things. So demand always increases.
The demand for treatments.
Imaging, for procedures, to do something about what you found, new technologies that mean things that you couldn't do 10 years ago, you can do now, etc., etc.
Okay, so people are going to be scanned more in the future.
People will get more scans in the future, and that imaging technology will get used more and more in the procedure, in the intervention, in the treatment.
Okay, that's a nice trend. Okay.
I want to ask about the you mentioned that St. John's...
Can I also say,
yes,
on this intervention, collecting those images, in terms of audit trails, you know, proving you did the right thing, and being auditable on your work will also become much more important.
Okay.
You know, 30 years ago, if a surgeon killed you, you just said, oh dear, that's a shame.
Yeah. Now you have to prove that you did everything right and...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a very good friend who's a clever urologist who has had his practice destroyed because he didn't keep his data in good order, and he got accused of things I know he was innocent of, but it doesn't matter. He couldn't prove he was innocent, and it destroyed him.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So your data are playing a key role here.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes. Actually, when you mentioned the partners, you said like St. John should find a patient management system who is a like brandy one, or a PAC system who is a brandy one, and then partner with them.
I would find somebody somebody to partner with. I'm not sure who it is, but I would find a partner.
Okay. So actually, but like, do you think St. John should try to differentiate his systems with the other rig systems in the market?
Yes.
Okay. So, like, what do you think the differentiation should be based on what you mentioned? Is like
integration.
Yeah, integration. Okay. And then you mentioned that you suggest the customer he finds is who have the really emergent needs. Like, you have to buy this rig system, otherwise I can't, like, something like...
Yeah. You've got to have people who are under pressure.
Okay. And you also mentioned that he should find not the who have most profitable, but who the cost of sales and the life cycles are the shortest.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, I see. And I want to ask, because...
And it's the same thing.
Yeah.
People who've got a pressing need will be much easier to sell to.
Yeah, that's why you mentioned the like T-Lock, because they need to move all the data out. Like, they don't want to stick with DGL or need to stay with DGL, but they really have their special needs.
They've got no choice. They're in the shit because of TGL.
Yes, I see.
And that overwhelms them. They'll talk to you about risks all day.
Yes.
But in the end, the key issue they've got to solve is moving data off DGL so you can manage it.
Yes. Okay.
Everything else is secondary.
Yeah.
Second order.
But the data migration, when you mentioned that, do you think it still belong to the integration, that topic?
I think in the case of DGL, you've got to migrate it onto something else.
Yeah. Okay. So it's different. Okay. And another question is about the referral systems, because some private clinic, they said they want the rig systems or the other systems to take the electronic referral forms. So is their referrer have their own system?
You've got to be able to read the information coming from the referrer, haven't you?
Yeah, but I thought they used the paper one.
Well, they do use paper, but you digitize the paper.
Okay, so actually referrer have their own systems.
Yeah, but they might be paper systems.
Okay, I see. So you mean
if they're IT systems, it would be nice to integrate with them, or at least have an API to make that integration easy.
Okay, I see. And about because most of the clinic interview are based in London. So what do you think London's private healthcare market? Do you think it can be representative the UK or is special one?
It is certainly special.
Yes.
But what happens in London today will happen in the rest of the UK tomorrow.
Okay, so...
That's the second observation is, and where the markets are different, a lot of the smaller private hospitals outside London, do you understand the expression cherry pick?
Yeah.
You understand cherry pick?
Yeah, the Thatcher has been defined cherry picking during the Brexit. I remember the article. Yeah, cherry picking means when you
pick the good bits.
Yeah, exactly. You decide just to pick
the big
the good
difference
things.
is the private hospitals,
Yes.
smaller ones, will live near a big NHS hospital
Okay.
and will try and steal the easy work that's profitable.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And that's called cherry picking. Just picking the good cherries,
Okay.
leaving the bad cherries.
Okay.
But as soon as they start offering those services, they've got to be able to report back to the NHS.
Okay.
So they have to be able to start being able to look at NHS systems and report back. Then you get into all sorts of data security issues and God knows what.
Okay.
Guys, I'm going to have to go.
Yep.
You've got any more quick questions?
Actually, there is a question. It's about your experience, because, can you briefly say, for example, how many years your experience in private healthcare market?
I wouldn't say primary healthcare. It's more acute healthcare, I know.
Okay.
25.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have any more questions.
Yeah, I also finished all my questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I've got to go, guys. Otherwise, nice to chat. Marco, I'll send you some document. See if you know somebody will do it, or if you want to do it, you can do it.
Okay.
In Italy. Okay, cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. I forgot to ask the scoring. Do you need to keep a score to send John to school or something like that?
Score?
He mentioned that before. What function do you think you can provide really good, but and then select the.
We can
select
ask.
the- But the problem is today he mentioned another thing. Shit, let me finish it first.